Hey guys, welcome back to Sacred Vedic Astrology. My name is Samantha, and I feel so blessed to be a professional Vedic sidereal astrologer. So I know that I've been a little MIA with the YouTube content. I've just had a lot of other stuff going on in life and different projects I've been working on, some personal creative projects. I'm actually also writing a book, which has been so fun. And no, it's not an astrological book, it's just like a fiction book, passion project. But there's just been a lot of other stuff going on, but I have missed YouTube so much, and so I'm really excited to be back with another celebrity chart analysis video. And this was one that was actually requested by y'all. I made a little post and I was like, is there a certain video you guys would want to see? And one of the comments was Olivia Rodrigo, because apparently someone in her family saw her chart when she was younger. I think it was her grandfather. And he said she's going to be successful as a performer and she's going to be very emotional and sensitive, which is always like really fascinating when celebrities have already gotten chart readings done. And I guess she loves astrology, which is always just really fun when they're already open to it and you read their charts. And you can always see that in the chart as well too. Like you can see when they're going to be open to the astrological or the spiritual stuff. So that's really cool. But what we're going to really focus on in this chart analysis is how we can see the creative, the artistic potential of the chart, the fame, the success, all of it. We're really going to focus on the creative aspect of this chart. So I'm really excited, and yeah, let's just get into it. Okay. So here we have Olivia Rodrigo's Vedic astrological chart. Remember, this is sidereal astrology, so sometimes I'll get comments about different placements, and I'm like, wait, no, this is the sidereal system. So it's a whole different calculation of the chart. Okay, so in Vedic sidereal astrology, Olivia Rodrigo is a Sagittarius Lagna or ascendant. Now, what's super fascinating is we get Venus right there in the first house. If we're going to look to creative artistic charts and then we see Venus right on the ascendant, great. Perfect. How much more literal can we get? So Venus is in the first house. Venus represents beauty, luxury, the arts, women, creativity. She's a beautiful woman, and she has Venus, the planet of beauty, right on her ascendant. And when someone has Venus in the first house, benefics in the first or aspecting the first, they'll have an ability to be seen, right? Because the first house is the self. So we want benefics on the ascendant if someone is going to be famous, be in the spotlight, because the benefic planets will boost the energy there. So Venus is right there, the karaka for beauty and love and creativity and women and fashion and beauty and design and luxury. All of it is right there. So it will also give her a very beautiful, aesthetically pleasing appearance as well. And she absolutely has that. Okay, so Venus is right there. So there's one check mark for like creative, artistic, music, dance, drama, art, women, connection to women specifically. A lot of her fans are women. And that's already like one part of the analysis, right? Like one check. Okay. So her first house is Sagittarius, which means that her chart ruler is Jupiter. And her first ruler is actually retrograde, but it's strong because it's in its own sign of Cancer, but it is in the 8th house. And what's really fascinating is the 8th house is quite literally the house of astrology. And she has Jupiter, a benefic there in Cancer, where Jupiter loves to be. So we get a strong Jupiter in the 8th house, which means that she would do well with astrology. And it's also aspected by Mercury, which Mercury is another benefic, right? It's opposite. So that would show that she would have some connection to like astrology, other people's money that rolls in from outside resources. The 8th house is also known as like sexy appearance, a lot of like magnetism, sexual appeal with the 8th house as well too. And her music is going to bring in royalties. her music is going to keep bringing in money. So we have to remember the 8th house is money that comes in just like constantly rolling in from outside sources. So it can be government money, inheritance, like pensions, wills, legacies, things like that. But it can also be like if someone is famous, they get money from royalties, right? It's like this money that keeps coming in, keeps rolling in. So that's the beauty of benefics in the 8th house, right? They get a lot of money from outside sources, and that's great, right? We want that. We want to see that. Really fascinating that she got her chart read so young, and her whole chart is ruled by a strong Jupiter in the 8th house of astrology. Fascinating. Her first ruler is retrograde, so there would be some shyness in this chart. When she was younger, she was probably very shy, more introspective, more to herself, right? That's usually what happens when the first ruler is retrograde. Also shows that someone comes into themselves fully a little bit later on in life, right? So I would predict, let's see, Olivia Rodrigo, born in 2003. I would say for Olivia, she really comes into herself later on in like her late 20s, going into her early 30s. There might be some major shift in like her personality or her persona. She's going to be one of those people that really comes into her full sense of confidence a bit later on in life. That would be my prediction. She's still really young, so I don't think she's fully there yet. But usually when the first ruling planet is retrograde, someone is shy, they're introspective, they're very reflective, they want to withdraw into their own world a lot. They can be pretty to themselves at times, but also they come into themselves fully as they get older, right? Because it's retrograde. Okay, so those are some interesting aspects of the chart. I love that she has that strong Jupiter in the 8th house aspected by Mercury, because that means that her chart's going to be easy to read. She's going to do well with astrology. She's going to do well with other people's money, like that. Okay, and also her first ruling planet is Jupiter, and it's directly aspected in opposition by Mercury. And this is a really tight degree aspect, so I want you guys to pay attention to this. Like, Mercury is 16 degrees 21, Jupiter is 16 degrees 53. So her first ruling planet is hit really closely by Mercury. So what does this mean? This means that her whole life is actually very influenced by the planet Mercury, right? And Mercury is writing, it's communication, it's expression, it's technology, it's sales, it's business, right? Is she an artist, a performer, a singer? Yes, but she's also a businesswoman. She is her own business, and she's also a prolific writer. So she writes all her music and talks a lot about how much music she's written over the years. So that's Mercury influencing her first ruling planet really tightly. And Jupiter-Mercury is a planetary aspect, whether it's like conjunct, opposition, aspecting each other by the 5th, 9 aspect of Jupiter, where Mercury is the mind, right? It's like mental energy, and then Jupiter is expansive. So it really expands someone's like mental bandwidth. They think a lot. They have very active minds. They might stay up really late at night because so many ideas are coming in, but it's a really creative, like planetary aspect, right? Because Jupiter is so expansive, and so it's expanding the ability for them to think, and they're creative, and their mind is going, and they have all these creative ideas, and it can be extremely creative when we have Jupiter aspecting Mercury, because the mental energy is like expanded by Jupiter, right? And that would also give her an ability for the written word, right? Because Jupiter is bringing its benefic influence onto Mercury, and vice versa. So she's definitely a very prolific writer, and that's like a huge part of her career, right? Yes, she did the acting, she does the singing, but she also writes all of her music, and she's very much a writer. Okay. And I would predict she probably has some, like, I don't know if I want to call it an issue, but something where her mind is she can get obsessive, she can think a lot, she can overthink, overanalyze, get really, really in her head as well too, with that Jupiter-Mercury aspect, like so tight on each other. She would have to watch out for anxiety and like nervous system dysregulation, because Jupiter is expanding. So let's do our little research, guys. I love when I do this little research. Let's see if there's anything online. It says she has a rare neurological condition where she sees colors. Okay. Synesthesia. I've actually never heard of that. It says she experiences colors when she hears music. That's very interesting. Okay, that's kind of cool. Okay, so it says she has spoken openly about experiencing anxiety, a theme that is explored in her music. She's been in therapy since she was 16 because the pressure can be challenging. She has to cope with anxiety in therapy. Okay. She says her songwriting is a therapeutic practice that helps her as well too. It also says she has performance anxiety. That would be the first ruler retrograde, right? There's like a shyness. There can be a lot of fear when the first ruler is retrograde as well too. Okay, so she definitely does have anxiety, right? Whenever like Jupiter aspects Mercury, it's expanding the nervousness and the nervous system, right? So it can make someone kind of jittery, anxious. They think a lot. Their mind is constantly going, but it's also very creative when they come together. Okay, so there is that. Now, okay, Venus is on the ascendant. Artistic, creative, beautiful, singing, songwriting, fashion, beauty, design is right there. She's going to have a special connection to women. Venus is a karaka for women. Her first ruler is hit by Mercury in a very tight opposition aspect. So that means that brings in like the ability to write and communicate and express, right? She's a songwriter, she's a lyricist. Jupiter is aspecting Mercury, which also brings a very creative, active mind, but can be anxious, right? Check. Okay, now let us move on to her sun. So I want to talk about the foundational aspects of the chart because this is actually like really spot on in Olivia's chart. Okay, the foundation of any Vedic astrological chart is the first house, the sun, and the moon. Okay, first house, sun, and the moon. Now, her first house has Venus right there on the ascendant. That's a karaka for the arts, creativity, beauty, etc. Okay, so there's one pillar of the chart. Now her sun, which is another foundational aspect, is in the third house. Third house is music, dance, drama, performing, creativity. Okay, so another foundational aspect is like shining its energy into the third house of the arts and performing. Okay, and then the moon is in the 10th house of career, right? So the moon is where someone is always very focused in this lifetime as well too, and that's in the 10th house, the career house. Isn't that like a fascinating way to look at the chart? Is like the three foundational energies all connect to like career and creativity and performing and artistic ability. So it's like Venus is in the first house, the arts, sun is in the third house, the arts, performing, dance, drama, writing. The moon is in the 10th house of career, right? So it's like we can see all these different thematic elements playing out, and this is like her whole life, right? That's the foundational aspects. Okay, so Venus on the ascendant, check. First ruler hit by Mercury, check. And then we get the sun in the third house, check, right? Her sun in the third house means that her Atma planet, right, the planet of the soul, is in this very performative, creative house. So she's going to like to dance. She wants to perform. She's going to be very performative, even though she is going to also be shy because her first ruler is retrograde. She's going to struggle sometimes with like anxiety, stage fright, nervousness, shy, withdrawn at times. Her sun is also in the third house, so she's really going to desire to perform, right? So she's going to overcome that obstacle, essentially, okay? And her sun being in the third house would also show for her, she would have some energy of like really strong willpower, ambition, right? The third house is the house of like, yes, music, dance, drama, creativity, siblings, communication, sales, business, all of that. but it's also this very strong, like, courageous house. So if you see a lot of third house energy in someone's chart, they can really overcome obstacles and have that willpower, have that drive, have that ambition to go after what they want to go after. And I also find the third house to be a very entrepreneurial sort of house. Of course, being like her own, she's an actress, she's a singer, she's a songwriter. That is an entrepreneurial sort of endeavor. So, you know, another check. Her sun, which is like the seat of the soul, is in the third house of performing, of art, of creativity, of expression, of energy, right? I talk about this a lot, but third house is like energy. So that's the ability for someone to like go up on the stage and sing and dance and perform. That's the third house more than anything else. Okay. And then the other foundational aspect of the chart is the moon, right? So the moon, or Manas, is also a really big focus of the chart because Vedic astrology is a lunar-based system, which means that like it's ruled by the moon, and wherever the moon goes will show like where someone has a focus in this life. So it's like the sun is a focal point, the moon is also a focal point, the ascendant, and her moon's in the 10th house of the career. So that means that she's always thinking about the career. She's really connected to her career. She wants to have a big career. It's going to be important for her in this chart as well too. Sun's in the third house. She wants to perform. She wants to be creative. She wants to be on stage. Her Venus is on the ascendant, so she's creative, artistic, beautiful. And then her moon's in the 10th house, so she wants to have an important career, right? And I've talked about this a lot before, but moon in the 10th house is a really classic, like, fame-producing aspect, right? Because the moon is like the public, the masses, and it's in the 10th house of career, so it means that someone can reach the public in their career, right? They're going to get out there. And one of my first Vedic teachers, Joni, would say if someone has moon in the 10th house, even if they're like a plumber, which there's nothing wrong with being a plumber, but I'm just saying like that's different than being an artist or a performer. Even if someone is working a more blue collar sort of job and they have moon in the 10th house, then like they're one of the best plumbers in town, right? Like it doesn't mean that like when you have moon in the 10th house that you're automatically a famous rock star. It just means that if you have moon in the 10th house, you can be very good at what you do. You can be very committed to your work. You can be well known in your field. You can reach like some level of success or recognition. So that's really fascinating. And she obviously, like, her chart is like an extreme example where she really reached the masses. But I just say that because not every chart with moon in the 10th house is like, oh my God, they're going to become famous. That's not real life. So it's a fame-producing aspect, but it's not that every chart has moon in the 10th house, they're famous. It just so happens that you see it a lot. Like Lana Del Rey had moon in the 10th house. I analyzed someone else's chart recently who was famous and had moon in the 10th house. It just gives the ability for fame and success and recognition in the career. And moon in the 10th house also will give a like sensitive sort of career. They either connect a lot with women or they do something that's like more emotional. There's going to be some emotional drive in the career. Obviously, she has fans that are like men and women, but I'm sure if we looked at the breakdown of like, do more men or do more women listen to Olivia Rodrigo, I would assume it would probably be a lot more women. So there's also a karaka for women in the 10th house. So it's like an emotional career, it's a sensitive career, it's a creative, artistic career, can connect to women, and it's also, one of you guys asked this once, and comment down below if this was you who asked this, but you left this really great comment, and you were like, oh, can moon in the 10th house show that someone has like fluctuations or like ups and downs in the career? Absolutely. The moon is always shifting, right? So it's like waxing and waning. So where the moon goes, we can have ups and downs as well too. So it's not, oh my God, moon's in the 10th house, the career is perfect. There can absolutely be a lot of like highs, lows, ups, downs that exist in the career as well too. Okay. And Rahu also does aspect her 10th house. So Rahu is at 10 degrees in the 6th. By its 5th aspect, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and influences the 10th house. So Rahu is like a fame producing or like a larger than life aspect when it goes onto the 10th. So that's also heightening the moon, right? So we get like moon in the 10th, and then Rahu is like reaching the masses, reaching different lands, different cultures. Rahu heightens everything, and now Rahu's influencing the 10th, so that gives another indication of like a heightened career, a big career, like that. Okay, now this is where things get like eerily spot on. Okay, so 10th house is ruled by Mercury, right? So wherever the 10th house ruling planet goes, that house is going to show us what the career connects to, right? So 10th house is Virgo. It's ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in the 2nd house. It's in the 2nd house. Yes, it is. Guys, you might already get the gist of this, but the 2nd house quite literally connects to the voice. That's literally it. The 2nd house is the voice, it's expression, it's speech, it's money someone makes. Yes, it can be writing, education, someone's own income. So it's like the 10th ruler is ruled by her voice, how she uses her voice. She's a singer, right? How much more literal can we get? 10th rulers in the 2nd house of the voice. And the 10th house is Mercury, right? And Mercury is a Karaka, or the 10th house ruling planet is Mercury. And Mercury connects to, again, writing, expression, communication. So again, she's not just like an artist, she's also a really prolific lyricist. She writes a lot, right? So how much more literal can we get here? Her whole career is ruled by using her voice, speaking, and then writing, right? Because it's also ruled by Mercury. And she also does have Mercury right near Neptune. Really tight degree, actually, right? Neptune is like 17 degrees, Mercury 16 degrees. So Neptune can bring a sort of otherworldly influence. So she might feel like a lot of her like music or her writing is almost like channeled from another place. Like she might feel like it just comes to her. It just comes from a more like spiritual place. She just gets these like downloads or insights in her music as well too. Okay. So there is that. Another check for the creative, artistic, musical career. And also her 10th ruler is Mercury, so it's hit really tightly by Jupiter, right? So the 10th ruler is in the 2nd house, music, the voice, expression, writing. And then the 10th ruler of Mercury is hit really tightly, not even like 1 degree away, but within minutes, by Jupiter. So that means that the 10th ruler is getting a great benefic Jupiter influence, right? Because Jupiter is such a benefic planet. So then Jupiter gives the ability for the career to be like expansive, really successful, because it's hit by another benefic, right? So then we have moon in the 10th house, fame and success. Rahu influences the 10th house, success heightens it. And then the 10th ruling planet is hit by Jupiter, a great benefic. Jupiter expands as well too. So this is a really, really powerful career, right? Because Jupiter is influencing the 10th ruler so tightly. Like it's really tight and really powerful as well too. There it is. The career is about singing and the voice, and it's creative and it's artistic, and she's reaching the masses, and it's big, and it's reaching foreign lands. And she's beautiful, and she's writing, and she's creative, but she has a lot of anxiety and some stage fright. It's all right there. It's really all right there. What I do find really fascinating about this chart is the Rahu Saturn in the 6th house. So, and then it's hit by Mars. So that's like a lot of malefic influence into the 6th, which can show a few things. One, it can show some like legal issues, but she would probably overcome like legal issues, enemies, obstacles, right? Because malefics actually do well in the 6th house, and she would also overcome like health issues, but it can also be a theme, right? So she might have some like legal issues, might have some enemies, might have some issues with like her health, but she'll overcome them. So that's really interesting. I don't know too much about that. You guys can comment below if you do, but there's some theme for her of the legal system, enemies, and her health. But because it's all these like malefics wrapped up with the 6th house, she's going to overcome her obstacles and it's not going to like get in her way, essentially. So that's really interesting as well too. Okay. And yeah, let's see, is there anything else that I feel... Oh, okay. So I was going to talk about the fact that she got her fame in the Rahu Dasha, right? Which is really fascinating because the Rahu Dasha can do that, right? Like the Rahu Dasha is fame and success and materialistic desires and highs and lows and ups and downs. Let's see, I think it was like 20... It said she got some big fame in 2021 because that was when her song came out. Let's see. When did she get fame? Okay, in January 2021 is when she skyrocketed. Okay, what's funny about that is like Rahu is like skyrocketed. That would be such a word to use with Rahu. Like Rahu's extreme. It's like something that just like happens. It can be kind of this like overnight success sort of energy, but... Okay, so she was in her Rahu Venus. Wait, 2021. Oh yeah, she was in Rahu Venus. Of course, right? Rahu is in her 6th house of work. Venus is in her 1st house of self. Rahu is connected to fame and success in the material world, and Venus is connected to art and beauty and creativity. So when she was in that Rahu Venus Dasha, it propelled her into success with creativity, beauty, music, all things creative would go well and be really important in that Rahu Venus Dasha as well too. So it's really fascinating that she would go through her fame in the Rahu Dasha. And what you'll find a lot is like people will get fame or success, or they'll get a lot of these like materialistic sort of desires in the Rahu Dasha, and then they'll realize that they're like still not happy. You see that a lot in a Rahu Dasha. Obviously her case is more extreme, where she got like this high level of fame and success and money and all of it, but it just happens a lot that like in Rahu Dashas you'll also find that someone gets all these things they want and like they either struggle emotionally, or they don't feel happy, or they feel like they got it all and it's not fulfilling. Like you'll see a lot of themes like that in the Rahu Dasha. And her Rahu's was Saturn in the 6th house, hit by Mars. So I would also predict that like in her Rahu Dasha, she probably had some legal issues and some health issues and some issues with like enemies throughout the Dasha as well too. Again, comment down below if you guys know about this, but there's no way that there was not some element of that, because Rahu's with Saturn in her 6th house hit by Mars. That's too many malefics influencing the 6th house for there not to have been like some legal issues coming up, some issues with like public enemies, or some issues with her health. It doesn't have to be anything like, oh my god, she had this like crazy illness, but she probably did have some important health, issues that were coming up, either physical or mental as well too. All right, and I talk about this a lot, but the Rahu Dasha is like, woo! It's a roller coaster. It's up and down and good and bad and high and low. And you can really get all the things you desire on the material plane in a Rahu Dasha, and then you like get it and you're like, why did I want that so bad? You see that a lot with the Rahu Dasha. It's kind of like, the best way I could explain it is like you manifest all these things in the Rahu Dasha, and you're like, I want that, and I want this, and I want that, and I want to build this, and I want to bring this into my life, and I want this amount of money, and I want this career success. And the person gets it, and then they're like, wait a second, why did I want that so bad? Like, the way that I see Rahu energy is like it always comes with a price with Rahu. So it's like you can get the success and the money and all the things with Rahu, but there can be some element of like trickery or deceit, or just comes at a price. And I feel like fame is probably one of the most prominent experiences that comes with a price, of course. I'm sure she's had a lot of her ups and downs emotionally through the Rahu Dasha. So yeah. Okay, and it's really interesting because she starts her Jupiter Dasha in 2027, which is coming up, and Jupiter's in her 8th house. So probably my prediction would be in her Jupiter Dasha, she's going to get a lot more spiritual. She's probably going to have some major change or transformation. And she's probably going to get a lot of money from outside sources, right? Because her Jupiter is strong in that 8th house of like other people's money. But I would predict she's going to go through some like big transformation in her Jupiter dasha where she's like wanting to either like reinvent herself or change her image or do something that's a little bit more like spiritually inclined as well too. So that'll be interesting to see the shift that happens for her in that Jupiter dasha as well, because it's in her 8th house, right? And it's hit by Mercury. So it's going to be a very interesting dasha sequence for her, very spiritual, very transformational, very psychological. She might want to like help people more in that dasha. Like she might want to be like a guide or a teacher to others or like mentor in her Jupiter dasha. So we will see what happens. Okay. All right, so that is that, right? We saw it in so many different ways, the performing and the art and the creativity and the writing and the big career, the career success, the Rahu dasha, right? The Rahu Venus dasha is when she got that success, which Venus is a karaka for creativity. Rahu heightens it. Rahu is success and reaching the masses. Sometimes Vedic astrology is just like so literal that it's kind of funny in that way. Okay. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and comment, like, and subscribe for more content coming soon. And you guys can always book your own personal chart analysis if you want me to essentially do this and so much more in your own chart. And that will be linked down in the description below. And if you guys know anything about like the 6th house sort of stuff, let me know that as well too. I'm super curious. And yeah, definitely we'll have more content coming soon. I want to get back into my content grind. And I had so much fun filming this. So we will talk soon. Bye, guys.